if anybody doesn't know, I do a podcast, In Touch with iOS, each week, and talk about all kinds of this stuff. So you can definitely check that out and give it a listen to find out even more things that we don't learn today here. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Yes, perfect. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to touch upon some of the things that Linda just mentioned, notably iOS 14, as well as I want to just touch a little bit about the iPhone 12, and before we move on, and I get into the tips and tricks and such with iOS 14. So, as Linda mentioned, yeah, iOS 14.0.1 was released. That's the current version that's out right now. So you should definitely upgrade to it. There was a security update that was added to that, so make sure that you're running that if you are running iOS 14 on your iPhone or your iPad for that matter. And then iOS 14.1, which was released, like Linda mentioned, for a brief time, was one of the strangest things I'd ever seen Apple do with iOS. They released it. They thought they were going to release it out to everybody, then they pulled it back, and there was no explanation of why they did it. So then an hour or two later, I have a developer account, so I go in there and I see iOS 14.1 is now what's called a GM, which is called Gold Master, meaning that it's there for anybody to install as a developer, but it's not out for the open public. Well, the caveat to that is normally when you have a developer's account, you install a certificate onto your device, and then it allows you to over-the-air install it. Well, you can't even install the 14.1 that way. There's kind of a workaround you have to do. So my understanding is what they had done is they may have inadvertently released it and they weren't supposed to. 14.1 is going to get released once the iPhone 12 makes it to market. If anybody was lucky enough to pre-order the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 12 Pro that went on pre-order last week, this is going to be ready to go when they go for sale on Friday. So I'm pretty much anticipating 14.1 will be the one that'll be released. But then there is beta right now, and I do on the phone I'm going to be sharing with you is on beta as right now. This is iOS 14.2. It's in beta 3, so it's getting close. It's got some good. It's a lot more solid. Seems like it's working really well. One of the notable features that they had added was the fact that if you don't recall that Apple had purchased Shazam, and now they're going to integrate Shazam into the OS, so it's going to be much easier to be able to have Shazam listen to music and tell you what the song is. So that's one of the things that was added to that. So, but that's what's happening as far as iOS 14 goes. So let me dabble a little bit about in the iPhones. Instead of me reviewing, I'm not going to go through and review the event. Like Linda mentioned, I highly recommend watching that event. It was a lot of fun. And I agree with you, Linda, that the events that the Apple has been doing have been pretty amazing, very concise, to the point, getting things and we're getting the message across, and I think they've done a really good job with them. So so this is the span of the 4 models that were announced at the event. The first one is the iPhone 12 mini. That's a 5.4-inch screen, and here's all the specs. I'm not going to go through all the specs, but the mini seems to be aimed more towards folks that will really like that really small size iPhone. It's not too much far off from the original iPhone SE. That was this really small screen. That was a 4.7-inch screen. But I think it's going to be a very popular model for those who like the smaller size phone. And then you have the iPhone 12, which does have which is similar to what the mini has as far as specs goes, and has a lot much bigger screen. It's a 6.1-inch screen, which is comparable to like a 10R or the iPhone 11. So that's really where that compared to. Colors on these, as you see here, red, blue, green, standards, and then your storage on these models are going to start at 64 gigabytes and small size up to 256. Then you go over to the big boys. You got iPhone 12 Pro, which went on pre-order, and this is a pretty amazing iPhone, I think, as well as the Pro Max. So this has a triple lens and has what's called LiDAR. LiDAR is a technology that does a much better job of being able to measure darkness when you're taking pictures in dark light or dark. I said that doesn't even make sense. Dark light. You're taking pictures in darkness, and it does a much better job of being able to sense that, as well as focus. That lidar is going to be much better, do a much better job in darker conditions as well. But it has the 3 lenses. 52 millimeter is the telephoto. Storage across the board is going to start at 128 all the way up to 512, and it's got gold, silver, and Pacific blue. Then you move on to the iPhone 12 Pro Max. That's the one I'm going to get. So I held back. I'm going to pre-order this one. That's that one comes on pre-order along with the Mini on November 6th. This is an amazing iPhone. I was when we were watching I was watching the event. I just was like, wow, really, I just was amazed at what Apple has done with this 7-element lens, which is going to give you even much better photography and photos. 65 millimeter telephoto. It's the largest telephoto I've ever seen in an iPhone. It's just amazing. Again, same colors, same storage. It's going to be a little higher price, of course. You start $999 on the 12 Pro, $1099 on the 12 Pro Max. That one, I guess I said they'll be available on November 6th for pre-order and launch on the 13th for that. So, and as Linda also mentioned, no more plug in the box. And interesting to see where that goes. They have the Lightning to USB-C cord in the box, but you would think most of the people have the adapters, the old 5-watt adapters that are the USB-A. That is only a 5-watt adapter. So obviously Apple's saying, hey, here's the cord, because it's going to charge faster with this cord, but you're going to have to get a plug in order to use it. But a lot of third-party companies are already jumping on the bandwagon. Anchor, I've seen, and many others that are jumping on this. Same thing with the AirPods. No more AirPods in the box. You know what? I think this is a smart move on Apple's part, because I guarantee a lot of these adapters have been put into the landfill. I could probably look over to in my closet right now and look in a bin. I can guarantee I have a whole box full of old adapters that I hadn't used in years. So I think it was a good move on their part. Then one last slide I'm going to go over here is just kind of the technology that was added to the iPhone 12 Pro. In photography, they added Pro RAW, which is pretty amazing. If you're a high-end photographer, RAW is probably the best way to take a photo. And the amazing thing is you're going to be able to edit the photos right from your iPhone. Same thing with video. You're going to you'll have a Smart HDR3, which is the smart high definition for photography for photos. Then you have the 4K HD with video recording and Dolby Vision, which is high end, which is just absolutely amazing. So that in itself is just I think all that just alone I just mentioned is going to make a big deal. MagSafe adapter, you're going to I won't go too much in detail with that, other than the fact that it's an adapter that has got a magnet that's built into the iPhone, and you're going to be able to attach that to the phone, and it's going to charge, which I think is pretty awesome. And rest of the stuff, not got too much. The ceramic shield was a pretty interesting thing. It looks like they're going to put like a shield on the glass, so it's going to be about 4 times less of a chance of it breaking if you drop the iPhone. So, which is pretty awesome. So, yeah, I think this is a great time to get an iPhone if you're in the market for it. Their line is pretty awesome right now. I mean, they're still even selling the 10R, which was a very popular model that's available as well. So, and that's that with the iPhone. So let me go ahead and move on, and we'll go ahead and talk about the iPhone iOS 14. Let me bring my iPhone up here. All right. So let's start with the most interesting thing they had added. And I think when you installed iOS 14 for the first time, you're like, okay, I scrolled through some of my apps here. It's like, oh, this is great. Yeah, I got all these home pages, and I got all these apps, crazy amounts of apps everywhere. And I'm crazy. I always have a lot of apps on my phone, and then I just keep going here. And then all of a sudden you get to this. Well, this is the new app library. And what they've done is they've done a really good job of actually scanning the apps that you have and actually bringing these up so it actually shows you what was been added. So like in case of this group here, this is suggestions. Then you had recently added. Then it's got utilities. So if you see here, like the settings and some of the browsers I had are on here, and then shows creativity. Then it has productivity and finance. Then it has your social media stuff. And then the list goes on and on, and it just actually does a really good job of grouping a lot of these apps in one place, which is pretty cool. And then the other thing that they did was finally, which I always found it to be a challenge, being able to actually be able to search for an app. Well, now you have now an A to Z listing of what is out there. So if I just type in, let's say I'm going to type in Google here to search for something, and it'll bring up all the apps that are part of Google. So that in itself, I think, is a great thing for being able to uh, being able to do that, and it is a really cool thing here. And one thing I want to kind of mention here, and maybe not aware of this, you notice here I'm typing in the Google here. I typed in the beginning of Google here, but if you see here down at the keyboard, it's got the button that says Go, right? Well, what they did was they added this. This is kind of a hidden tip. They added this where if you tap this Go button, it's actually going to open the first app that it found whenever you searched for something. So if I tap this Go right now, it's going to go to Google because that was the first app it came up with. It showed in there. So uh, kind of a nifty thing to be aware of on the keyboard. That so I'll give you kind of a little quick tip here. So and also what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you home pages. Okay, so yeah, we've got all these home pages here, and you scroll through them, but you get kind of tired of seeing all these home pages all the time. So you don't want to delete the apps; you want them to be on your iPhone. So what you can do is you tap and hold at the bottom here. And what I did was I tapped. If you see where my mouse is here, this is where the this brings it into if you remember if I'm saying the jiggle mode, and it brings you into that jiggle mode. Then down here, this is the bar that has all the pages, right? So if I just tap on that bar, look what it does. It brings me to the edit pages view. So let's say I only want to have just a few pages that are visible. So I can go here and I can start unchecking all these pages. Now, don't worry, the apps aren't going to be deleted. They're going to stay on that stay on the iPhone. It's just what I've done is I've actually gone through and I've removed the pages. So if I tap done, then I get out of jiggle mode. Um, Now all I'm going to have is two pages, one, and then two, and then goes right to the apps to the app library, which is really cool, and gives you some great options as far as that goes. I've kind of done it in the way I like to do it is I have my main page of all the apps that I use all the time, and then I have a second page that I have of apps that I use, and they're all here, and I have access to them. But if something's not there for some reason, and if I decide, okay, um, let me go in here and say, oh, you know what, I would probably want the DuckDuckGo in here, so I can tap and actually hold this and actually drag it over, and then bring it over to one of the pages from the app library. So this gives you some ways of being able to make those adjustments. Now, a lot of times, if you saw what I did is when you tap and hold on an app, it brings up the secondary menu, and you can actually get the at home screen option on here. And also, well, actually, what you can do too is I want to remove the app, but look at this new feature. This is this is going to give me a bunch of options here, so I can flat out delete the app. I don't want it on my iPhone anymore, and that's what we're used to here, right? So I would delete this app. But what I also can do is just remove it from the home screen. So if I decide, if I don't want to delete it, but if I just want to remove it from the home screen, so what it did was it removed it, but it's still in my app library. So if I go in here and if I search for it, if I type right, it actually is going to be there. And this was the app I just removed from the home page. So that gives you some options as far as that as well. So this in itself, I find this has been a pretty powerful thing that Apple has added to iOS 14, and being able to do a much better job of being able to manage your apps. Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm a little crazy. I have this is my demo iPhone, but my full time iPhone, I probably have about 300 apps on my phone. So, and having to flip through all those, and if what we used to do all the time is we would create groups and we put everything in there. We kind of don't have to do that anymore. You really can just have just a couple pages and just maintain it through the app library. So I think this is pretty cool. Um, other options here is let's tap and hold here again at the bottom, and I tapped right down here again to get into jiggle mode, and you notice now we only have the 2 pages here that are visible. What I can do up here at the top here is to tap this plus button, and what does it do? This brings me to the widgets. We talked about widgets, and I'm not going to go too deep into widgets other than to kind of give you some stuff of what's available on widgets. Let's go ahead and let me see. Well, it looks like I lost the widgets I had in here before. There they go. All right, so here's the weather app. So I can tap and go in here, and I can make the widgets wiggle, as you see. But what I want to do is I want to bring it over to one of the pages. So now, as you can see here, now you can add a widget right into the page, which I think is really cool. So now I've got this weather within a homepage, but you see what it did is it actually moves the apps around, and so it has to make room for it, because in widgets, when you tap and hold them, you can only move them around, and they can only be left or right or up or top or wherever. So you're limited as far as how it can appear on the actual screen. The other widget that I think is really cool is what's called the Smart Stack. Now you can bring this over too, if you want, and put the Smart Stack up here. And what this does is this actually gives you multiple apps in one place that are in a widget, and you can edit this content too if you want. So you can tap and hold it, and you can go edit stack. So now, right now, what it has here is, and I can reorder these as well. So let's say if I want the battery to be the first one, I can drag it up here in the Smart Stack here. So what it's going to do is the Smart Stack, it just randomly changes, and it goes through each one of these widgets that are specifically in in there, and it gives you a whole different world as far as going with widgets. So and you can always scroll over to the far right and then come to the widget page, and you can have your own widget page here. And you could also edit here and go in and make changes. You can add widgets if you want. So if you tap the plus here, there are some other widgets that are available. You could search here. Let me search for this. Yes, here's Siri suggestions. So if anybody's used Siri suggestions before, what Siri suggestions does is it just sees how you work with your iPhone, and it brings up those suggestions. I thought this was kind of a neat thing to do here. And I'm going to bring this over to the page here, and I'm going to put it up here. So then I'm going to get rid of this Smart Stack, and I'm going to get rid of this here. So now you see what I have here. I have a Siri suggestions widget that's up here, but see what it does is it randomly switches all the apps. So what you could do is you could add another widget if you want to. If you want to add another Siri suggestions, we can do that. Tap and bring another one. I'm going to add it. So now I've got two Siri. I've got two stack widgets here. But the cool thing is you can make this a whole full page if you wanted to of Siri suggestions, and then it just randomly alternates through the page. So I can add a third one, then all the groups of icons would be there, and it makes it really easy as far as that goes. So, and then moving on here, let's talk a little bit about the compact UI. If anybody's noticed, and that's always been the challenge, is the fact that whenever somebody calls you, you would always get a full screen, right? And we'd always have that full screen. You're in the middle of something. I'm doing something here. I'm going to kind of demonstrate this here and show you what I mean. Let me make a phone call here and see if this goes through. And what you're going to see here, assuming this goes through, is the compact UI. All right, so this is my other phone that's calling, but you see what's up here now? This is a compact UI of the phone, so I don't have to go and grab it. So if I say, "Oh, I'm busy right now," I can just swipe it up to the top. But look up here at the top here. The phone is still ringing. See, it's got the little bars that are going at the top there. It's kind of cool that it does that. So they did a great job of that as far as about that goes. Let me hang up before it leaves a voicemail. But They also did that with FaceTime. So if anybody were to call you on FaceTime, you'll also get a compact view, so it doesn't give the full screen, so it doesn't interrupt what you're doing when you're doing things. So, and other thing you probably can notice too is when you do Siri. Notice here now. Remember Siri when you would ask Siri something, she'd have said hi to us. It now only appears on the bottom of the screen here. It doesn't take up the whole screen. Remember before when you would have to go into Siri, you would tap and hold it, and the whole screen would be taken up, and then you'd have to just tell her what you were looking for, and then you'd move on. Well, now she's hidden, so you can keep doing your thing and be able to search and do whatever you were in the middle of, and not have to worry about that. Um, so let's talk a little bit about some of the things that were added. Now, for us, most of us here, if not all of us, I would assume, have never used an Android phone before. So Apple did kind of copy from Android, but you know what? Android copies from Apple too. So it's kind of the same thing we could do here. One of the things they did do is, when you go in and you want to send a text to somebody, they finally added the emojis that you could search, because that was always a pain, because you could never find you could never find the emoji that you want by typing in a specific word. Like in this case, I type it in okay, then I can now do the thumbs up. You could type in cake, and it depends on what it comes up with that. But at least now you can actually search for um, uh, emojis whenever you were looking for one of them. So the other thing too is they did add, is this is a core app now, is the translate button here. So if I were to say, welcome to the group, and let's see, should stop. So in this case, I had it set it up, and this is a built-in app that actually is very, very accurate if you're looking to have something to translate to different languages. And you could do it sideways like this, and it actually show it to the person that you're speaking to that speaks Spanish, and be able to play it back for them, as well as show it to them with the app, which is really cool. Another thing that they have added, which is pretty awesome, is the fact that you now can set your email or your browser as a default. So what you can do is you actually can go in to, let me see if it's in Safari. If not, I'll go to the other app, because it was missing last time. Nope, it isn't there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to one of the browsers I do already have installed on here. And it should have Edge. Okay, here's DuckDuckGo. Okay, DuckDuckGo is considered a browser. So if you see right here, it says default browser app. Right now it's set to Safari, right? Well, if I tap default browser, now I have the choice of any one of these browsers that I have installed on this iPhone right now that can now be a default browser. And if, let's say, I go ahead and I want to make Edge my default browser now. So if I were to go into email and I want to tap this link, look what it does. It automatically opens it up in Edge. So now Edge is my default browser anytime I browse for anything on this iPhone, until I change it back to whatever I want it to be the default to. So very unique. One thing unique to iOS that Apple added was a lot of the accessibility features are pretty awesome. One of them is the back tap. I don't know if anybody has played with this yet or not, but if you go into accessibility and if you go into touch, right down here, there is a choice here called back tap. So if you choose this, so right now I've got this set. There's a double tap and there's a triple tap. So I had set the double tap to the control center. So what I'm doing is I'm double tapping the back of the phone and see what happened. It automatically opened up the control center because I told it to set it that way. If I go ahead and do a triple tap, I've got this set to take a screenshot. And look what it did. So got to be real careful with the screenshots. So that's why I didn't want the back tap to be set for double tap, because it's very easy to do, and it's very easy to be taking lots of unnecessary screenshots. So, but let me go back in there and show you. There are lots of other things that you actually can change and go through there. And let's go to touch and go to back tap. So you see here, there's lots of things that you can set it to. You want to go back to the home page, you can do it that. But you want to go into reachability, like what about reachability was the thing that brings the screen down lower so you can get to something. Spotlight. Some people like that. If you want to have one of those taps as their spotlight search, you can bring you like the spotlight so you can search for things. That's really cool as well. So they've really done some great things with accessibility, and I would think this type of tool is actually considered a accessibility feature, in the sense that I think many people would want to use it and may need not be impaired that they need to use it. So I think it's pretty cool here. So let's take a time here. Let me get through here and talk about some stuff here. All right. In messages, if you're not familiar with this, they've added a new feature here. So I've got a couple messages in my iMessage right now. You can tap and hold on a message and actually pin it. So now what it'll do is it'll pin it up at the top there. So now if any texts come through, they will be there. And I keep losing my phone here. Oh, there it is. And then when someone sends a text, instead of it going down the list, it's actually going to. All right, here we go. I'm gonna send a message here so you can see it. Second. All right, and you see what it did? I just said hi, and it shows up at that top, and then you can pin up to I believe it's 6. So I could pin this one as well. And you also can pin groups. So if you have a group message going on, that always comes in handy. So you can get to that group message and it's always at the top, and then you don't have to go dig in deep to get the messages in there, which is pretty cool too as well. So I'm going to go ahead and unpin this, and we can bring them back. Here's a hidden feature. Let me try this. Hopefully this works. Anytime you've gone into a Bluetooth device, if you go into settings and you go into Bluetooth, you usually see it, and I may have already renamed this. I did, but I'm going to show you anyway. So I'm going to connect this iMask Bluetooth device that I have here, and it needs to be connected in order to be able to change this. And if it lets me, so I can tap, hold it, and let's see if it'll. Oh, there it is. Okay, so and it went away. Give me 1 second. We actually can do this one too. So this Bluetooth mouse here that I've got hooked up, if anybody was running, and of course you can't see my screen, so hold on a second. My screen got lost focus here. 1 second here. Apologies. Lost connection. Sitting here talking and you can't see anything. All right, there we go. Let's go back to this here. So what I was doing is I was going into Bluetooth devices. Now, the Bluetooth device is connected, like this iMask is connected as well. You actually can type the info button and then tap the name, and you actually can rename this. You can rename this to anything you want. So I can just call this a Bluetooth mouse that I have hooked up here, or name it whatever I'd like, and just click done and be able to change that. You were not able to do that before with third-party devices. You could do it with with AirPods. So if you wanted to do it with AirPods, or any Apple device, you could change that. But now you can now change it. So, that is one of the tips I wanted to show as well. Let's go back, look at my notes. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Safari. I think Safari they've done a really good job of adding a lot of new features in here. One of the ones I wanted to show you was Translate. Now, here I am right now. I'm on a French-speaking website. So, of course, if you don't speak French, you're going to probably have a tough time reading this, right? Well, what you can do here is, if you want to go up here at the top and then type this little A here, and you see this here, this has a choice here, Translate Website. You tap this, I want to translate it into English, and what it'll do is it automatically translates it to English. Isn't that pretty cool? So now when I scroll through this website, it was in French, but now the translator apps translated it right back into English. And if I want to switch it back, all you have to do is, as you see here, it's got the icon that shows the translate. Then I can go back and view original. And it switches it back. Now, another thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit is with security with Safari. So if you go down here, if you notice here, there's a choice here that says privacy report. Now, this also is available on Safari on the Mac as well. They've added that, so that is available. But what this does is this actually goes through and tells you what in the last 30 days how many trackers have been prevented from tracking you. So I've been doing a demo on this phone a couple times. So over 120 trackers have been prevented from profiling me, so finding out about more what I do as far as searching goes. And if you notice here, it also shows like a most contacted tracker. DoubleClick is very famous for looking for what you're doing all the time when it's searching. And then here's all the sites that I had gone to. And there's many other sites that do that. CNN is notorious for being horribly bad, and it shows here, gives you the full detail here what CNN's using for trackers. It's crazy what they use here, and this is something good to know as far as privacy goes. If you want to be able to find out about this, so. And then as far as in Safari goes, let me go into a site to show you picture in picture. So I've got, let's see if I have that site still open. I do. I was going ahead and watching this video, and then what I want to do is I want to tap the button up here. So now I can actually navigate out of here, and now I can watch this video and while I'm doing work. So this is now, I just stopped it from playing, but the video is playing. I can watch it in picture. This also applies to FaceTime, and that was always the big nuisance with FaceTime. Whenever you're connected to somebody with FaceTime, you would go out of FaceTime and go to look up something, and then it would say paused. Well, now you'll be able to see their face right on the screen with the picture in picture here. So that is really cool. So, and if you want to go back and return it, you just tap the button here, and it'll bring it back into the browser, and then away you go. Another feature they've added is privacy with the clipboard. And I don't know if you probably talked about this story in the past in your meeting about the privacy, and they caught some folks that were copying stuff into the clipboard. If you'll notice here, if I want to go ahead, I copied this URL from the website. If I go ahead and paste it, you'll notice right away, note passed from Safari. So every time you're actually copying and pasting something in anywhere, doesn't matter where it is, it's going to warn you that it was copied from another location. So it protects you, so you don't have any security problems. The other thing I'll mention too is the fact that up at the top here, you won't see it, but when the camera is in use or when the microphone is in use, you're going to see an orange dot or you'll see a green dot. That tells you that something is using one of your devices, and that's good to know, because if something is using and spying on you, you'll know, and you got to figure out what is causing that. So, and then one more last tip I want to talk about until I open it up. I know we've talked for about 35 minutes here, and we'll go for some questions. Is in Photos. So if I go into Photos here, I've got some photos here, and I took a picture of myself here of the Macstock picture, my T-shirt and my mug, and I got my Macstock cat on here. And what I want to do is I want to actually put a caption here. So what I did was I swiped up, and it brought up the photo, and then I can actually tap a caption in here where it says add a caption. I'm gonna put in Macstock, and I just tap done. So what it does is it actually now it has a caption for this photo. So if I were to go back and search for it later, I type in Macstock and do a search. It may still be indexing it, but it will find it. So right now it probably won't, because it has to still index, because I just added it. But once you type in a word, it will search for it. So, and that is what I've got for you guys with iOS 14. I could go on and on, but there's so much of it, and we'd be going crazy here. So with that, I'd love to open it up for any questions about iPhone, iPad, iOS, and I hope that you found that to be helpful.
Okay, to ask a question, be sure to unmute yourself before you ask.
Great.
I have a question. This is Wendy. Did you say that you cannot download yet the 14.0.1?
No, I said you cannot download 14.1. That's the one that's
okay.
Yeah, 14.0.1, which, well, actually that's not fair if I show you this one, because it's gonna
I uploaded it yesterday, thanks to my 12-year-old grandson.
You You downloaded 14.01. Good, good. Because
Yeah.
that's the latest version. If you see, you're looking at this phone here. This is a this is showing because I'm running the beta the beta on this. It's 14.2.
I
So,
see that. Yes.
yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome. More questions?
Yeah. So with all of the lovely and wonderful new features that have gone in on the new OS, which ones have come out as your personal favorites or the ones that you think are most important?
I think the app stores was a huge, was a huge thing here. I'm actually bringing my iPad here because I know you guys wanted to see Scribble, so I'm gonna do that in just a second here. I think the app library that they add is awesome. I mean this is so well designed, well organized, and the homepage adjustments. So it's really helping me to be organized, and it's also helping me to not have like a bunch of pages all here. So on my primary iPhone, what I do is I have just 2 pages. I have my main home page that I use most apps that I use all the time, and then the second page of any other additional apps, and then and then I go right to the app library. I think that's a really great way of doing it. You can go crazy with customizations, believe me, and I've seen some. If you're on YouTube watching some of these videos, you can get really crazy customized with the widgets. I didn't even dive into widgets even remotely. There's so much with widgets, so. But let me show you real quick how Scribble works. So I'm on this page here. If you see this page that I'm showing here, and if I want to take a pencil, I'm going to scratch this out. It'll let me erase the word just by scratching it out. And if I go ahead and do this, it automatically recognizes the word if you spell okay. See that? You got to be a good person to write with cursive because sometimes and of course I'm reaching over hard to me so I can't write solid onto the iPad, but it does have the scribble feature, which is pretty awesome. This is in Pages, so you can actually scribble through. You can make edits. I'm sure you've seen the demo of it, and it is a great feature. What you do here is if you let me move my cursor here for you. This pencil right here is the A. You have to use this pencil here in order for it to be able to use the pencil to be able to recognize the scribble. So. More questions?
Which, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing which thing you're using. You said you have to use a
Yeah.
certain pencil. Can you
Yeah, I'm sorry.
describe that?
I should have turned my mouse hover here. I don't know if anybody can see that. It's this A right here. I'm moving up and down. It's moving my mouse here. I mean,
Oh, I see. Okay. It's like the third one over. That's in Pages. Is
this
it a
is
specific? Go ahead.
this is to any app that has drawing. This can be in Notes. This could be in Pages. That
Is it,
pencil will show up. Mhm.
is that pencil almost always in that position? It looks like it's the third from the
Yes.
left. Okay,
Yes.
good. That I remember that. Thanks.
I forgot to turn my Pro Mouse here. Now you can see my mouse here and see I can have a big circle and go like that.
Ah,
You can see it.
good.
There
Thank you.
go. You're welcome.
All right.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question about Translate. Did I hear that it's supposed to work offline?
Yes. You can download languages, and what you have to do is you actually have to go into the languages in the settings here. Let me see if I can bring that up for you. Let's go back and go into. Let me cancel out of this. Go back into that page that I just translated. So I went into this menu here, and then I went into Translate Website. And you see here, it actually brought up a language here. So I've installed English and Spanish. You go in here and go to preferred languages, and what you can do is you can add other languages in here. And this is under language and region in the settings. And then you could add another language, and you download it, and then it'll offload all these different languages. So like let's say I want to add Japanese, and what I would do is I would keep it in English, of course, because I don't want it in Japanese, and I wouldn't be able to understand it. But what it does is the phone disconnected because it has to go out and download it. But now, let me bring it back up here for you, and I'll show you. Those languages are now in here. So now I've got Japanese in here too. So if I wanted to translate that to Japanese, that site, like, well, here's an English site. Let's go ahead. We could do it with an English site too. Yeah, probably wasn't a good site to pick here. Let's go here. So I could do the same thing, translate website, and then you would go in and you have to pick a preferred language. In this case, English, you have to actually put them in order. So if you go to preferred languages, if you want Japanese to be the second one, I can move this up as the second one. And I don't want to do that because it'll cause the phone to restart. So, but you can put additional languages and it puts them offline so you can use them for translate. Yep.
Thank you.
Welcome. More questions?
David, going back to the back tap accessibility, that was brand new to me. You're literally tapping the back of the phone?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I am.
And is that
okay, can you see my camera right now with the phone here? So
yeah.
if I just do like this, I double tap. I'm just taking my finger and double tapping and see what I did. I brought the control center up.
Okay, you tap. So all right, and that's for any. How far back does that go? I mean, if it's an old, you've got an iPhone 6 or an iPhone 10 or whatever.
The 6S on up. Anything that takes iOS 14, this will work.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a nifty feature. I was very when I found out about it, I was like, gosh, I mean, and like I said, here are some of the things that you can do, and there's just a long list of things that you can do in here to do it. In fact, I didn't even dive into this part. You can actually you could actually set up a shortcut. Like if you wanted to set a shortcut to open up like an app, you can actually go into shortcuts. That's a whole nother topic all by itself. But as you see here, there's a couple shortcuts in here. Like if I wanted to put Shazam as a shortcut for double tap, I can just double tap it, and it's going to bring up Shazam as a shortcut, and then I can say, okay, it's gonna launch it. So now it's listening for music. Yeah. Shortcuts, that's a whole nother topic all by itself. And I'm still learning shortcuts, and I'm by no means I think I know a pretty good amount of stuff, but shortcuts and widgets, I got some work to do to really get in on those two
That might
things.
be good. It might be we should bring you back for that.
Okay, I have to get on.
If you know too much, then it's too far above us. I think, or at least above me.
Yeah.
For myself.
Well, if anybody's not familiar with the Shortcuts app, let me just show you. This is Shortcuts, and there are some canned shortcuts that you can that come in with starters, but you can. What's great about it, it creates an automation. I'll give you a good example here, and anybody can see this. This is my little mask here that I use for when I sleep at night. I want to be able to listen to music, and it's kind of nice. It's got a Bluetooth device in there. So of course I don't want it connected. So what I did was I set up an automation. So when I go and turn this on and it says power on and it says connected, it'll automatically come up. I got it set to open up the radio.com app because I want to be able to listen to my local radio station on that app. And then I just tap okay, and boom, it does its thing. It's so a lot of automations. Same thing with the HomeKit. I'm starting to dabble in that a little more too. As I bought some more HomeKit outlets and making. I don't know if any of you've been doing that. There's even more of those types of things that are out there. So there's those three things in itself. I mean, it just blows my mind how much the iPhone, how powerful the iPhone is, and just to think about, we have this little device in our pocket, and compared to years and years ago when we used to have those flip phones, right? And I'll be the first to say I used to have one of those too. I had StarTech and I had some of those other smaller flip phones. What this iPhone can really do for you once you get and learn it and get and understand how it does its thing for you. So.
Oh, one more question.
Sure,
about the difference in the cameras between the 12 Pro and the 12 Pro Max.
Yep.
When I'm looking on the website, it says something like telephoto 2 times in, 2 times out. And I couldn't really find a description of what that phrase meant. But on this one, it says 4 times.
Yeah, it's a 4 times optical zoom. I guess it's like a 2x2. I saw that too. In fact, I was on a podcast last week and someone corrected me because I said no, because the 12 Pro Max has a 5 times optical zoom. I guess it's the way each one of the lenses works in accordance with how the zoom works on the telephoto. So that's really what that is. I guess it's not probably a great description, but yeah, Apple was not very clear about that. I agree with that. But are you in the market looking for a new iPhone, or?
I actually am picking mine up on Friday.
Ah, sweet. Did you get the 12 or the 12 Pro?
I got the 12 Pro. I was
Right.
really
You're gonna love
wanting the Max, but the last time I bought the big phone, it was just too heavy.
Yeah.
My little
That-
finger
that-
was hurting all the time.
That's
so,
what everybody says, but
yeah.
I absolutely. I mean, right now I have the 11 Pro Max, which is this one here, and I just absolutely love this this phone. So it's I like the bigger screen, and why not? And I'm in the Apple trade-in program, so I just trade this phone in, and I just go on and continue. It's like more or less renting the phone, but it's a great deal because you get priority, and they get everything approved for you. You don't have to mess around with it, and it's a great plan. So, well, my sweet spot, I like this as far as space goes. Did you go with a 128 or 256 for your storage?
I actually went for the 512.
You want a 512? All right.
Almost full right now. So.
All right. Wow.
Wow.
A lot of photos and videos, I bet, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh no, that's a great idea. Probably, if you're not already using iCloud, probably wouldn't be something to look at. That you can have some of that stuff offloaded and it stores into iCloud for you, so then you can just grab it when you need it.
I'm even paying extra for iCloud storage, but what I find is when I I do a lot of photo editing, and I don't want to have to wait for it to download. So
I hear you. No, hey, that's great. No, I talked to a lot of people that buy the 512. I'm okay with 256. But 512 is you get a nice bunch of storage. That's for sure.
A good way to think on the optical zoom with that is that what they're listing with the 4X and 5X is the total range they can work with.
Right.
They're still thinking of the middle camera as being like 1. So you can go, you could call it 2X out, but Apple refers to it as half, which is your wide, ultra wide picture.
Right.
And then you've got the telephoto, which gets you the traditional 2X that you're used to, or 2.5X on the Pro Max.
Thank you. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. But no, you're gonna love this lens. I mean, I can't wait to get my hands on it. I mean, that'd be interesting to hear how you like them. If you love taking photos, I bet you're gonna absolutely love this one.
One thing I'm actually quite surprised about with these new phones is that you've got all these different pieces: the Pro, the 12, the Max, the Mini, and they all have the same innards. It's the same processor across the whole bunch.
Yeah, A14, yeah, Bionic.
So you can actually go for a smaller phone, and you're not sacrificing any speed or power on that. Little battery life.
And it's amazing too that even if folks who don't want to go into the 12, they're not ready to make that move just yet. They could still go in and get the older models too. They're still selling the 11, and they're going to still sell the 10R. So you still can get, and the SE of course, so you still can get other models if you're some folks are just not, and it's not in their budget right now. So at least we can get them all in and having an iPhone and enjoy them no matter which model they go with.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know that with your expertise, there's no problem, but very often people recommend that you wait a month or two before you buy a new offering like the iPhone 12. What is your thinking? I know you've already gotten it, but if you're not an expert, what is your thinking on that?
Well, that's really entirely up to you. Yeah, I'm an early adopter, so I'm one that I get the new iPhone every year. So I'm probably not one to ask that question because I'm going to have the new iPhone every year. I've owned every iPhone since probably going back to the I think I go back to the 3G, so 3GS. So I've pretty much had every iPhone since then. Once I went to the 6S, 6S Plus, and the 6 Plus, I'm sorry, the larger size screen, I didn't turn back. So I've had the large screen since the 6 Plus all the way up to now. But as far as answering your question, as far as should you wait, which phone do you have now? Are you happy with it?
Oh, I still have the 6. I can't even upload.
Oh, geez, yeah, you really should think about it now at this point to do it. I mean, it really isn't entirely up to you. If you like to take a lot of pictures, then the 12 Pro is probably going to be a better choice for you. Or I don't know how large your phone. If you've got the 6, you probably have like the same size as the 12. But I don't think there's no reason to wait at this point for you, for sure. I mean, my gosh, you can't even upgrade to iOS 14 anymore. So
Right.
Yeah. So
okay, thank you.
I would jump on it. Yeah, I mean, You might have a tough time getting it right now because the pre-orders already happened with the 12 and the 12 Pro. But you can maybe you get the mini. You know, the mini is going to be pre-ordered on the 6th.
I would get probably the Pro or the Pro Max.
Okay.
Can I, just as a comment on that, if a person, I mean, the only thing about getting it right at the beginning is some people think that at the very beginning of the manufacturing line that you might be more inclined to get a flawed product.
Yeah, right.
But Apple is so good. I mean, if you're
Yeah.
fairly close to an Apple store, and you could, I mean, even if you had an issue, if you could, drive there and just exchange something, they'll take care of you right away. So they're so good on it. I think that unless if you lived in a place that was really, really remote and you had to drive 3 hours to find an Apple store, then I might consider waiting a little bit. But they're pretty good at this point. So I would go ahead. I wouldn't hold back if that's what you were thinking.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In many ways, you can look at the idea that Apple has surely put a huge amount of testing in beforehand through the beta testing community on that. So they've had like 10,000 people looking at it. But after it's shipped, you've got 100 million people looking at it, and they'll still manage to find things that the 10,000 couldn't. So it's just a question in many respects of what it actually would, how much confidence you have in that first edition. I mean, even looking at the software side of things, you see that Apple has already put out 14.01. And I keep hearing rumors of a 14.02, but
no, it's going to go right to 14.1 once the iPhone 12 comes out on Friday. So.
Yeah, and so I know a number of people who just by general principles wait for those initial patches to come in before they do an update. But in this case, I mean, for the people that I've talked to who have actually installed 14.0.0, it's been remarkably stable and trouble-free. There's not nearly the number of errors or failures or problems that some of the previous OSs have seen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and I hear that the Apple stores are open.
Not sure in California. In Illinois, they are.
No, how about in California? Does anybody know? We're all.
You can make one-on-one appointments.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I bought my Apple Watch, I actually had to make an appointment, and then I didn't even get to go in the store. I waited outside, and they brought the watch to me. So.
Yeah, a number of the stores in California are doing the same sort of thing. You can make appointments, you can stand in line sort of to buy accessories and the like, but they are servicing you basically at the door or at a like express window, I believe they're calling it, that they set up in the doorway. So you never actually step inside.
Thank you.
I have a question about the widgets.
Sure.
You have to have an app before you have a widget, what I understand. What if you hide the
I'm in trouble hearing you.
Okay. Jules, would you mute, please?
Jules is in here twice.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and try again.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. Well, I know that you have to have an app before you have a widget, but what if you hide the app?
If you hide the app is still there. I mean, it's not going to disappear. You don't have to have an app. I mean, Apple has core widgets that are available, but there are other apps that are out there. A good example is like something like Fantastical if you use a third-party calendar app. The Carrot weather, that's another app that's out there as well. But there's a lot of apps developers are actually adding widgets, but the built-in widgets are already in there. So like news and the calendar and the tips and the battery life and the stocks and all that stuff and the series suggestions I showed you earlier. Those are all the part of the core widgets. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Well, you guys, really a lot of great questions. I love it.
Thank you, David. I think we're a teeny bit over time, but you have been wonderful. Thank you. I mean, if people
thank you.
No, really, seriously, I'd like, oh, good, I learned new things. I get to, and
Awesome.
things that actually make sense to me. So that's very helpful.
I hope
So,
everybody
yeah.
learned at least a couple things that I talked about today, because yeah, it's hard to. I mean, believe me, I'm brain overload because there's just so much that has been added to iOS 14. This is probably one of the bigger updates that Apple's done on iOS for quite a long time. So, so definitely play with it. You're going to really enjoy it. I'm finding more new things every day, so you'll definitely find them. Find something that you like.
Yeah. This is also the point where we typically ask where we can follow you and hear more of your work if you
Appreciate
publish some
that.
stuff.
Absolutely. Yes. I have a podcast. I do a podcast every week. It's called In Touch with iOS. That's at intouchwithios.com. Just had Kelly Gomala on last week, and I got Jeff Gamet coming on this coming week. And I try to have guests from the Apple community come on to the show and just talk about stuff like iOS. We do we just lots of tips, lots of talk about the news, and just a lot of fun. And seems like people are enjoying listening to it. So check that out. And then if you do Twitter, you can follow me on Twitter at DaveG65. I'm active on there too.